What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Rex Righteous and Hector Franco here with another episode of Uptown Boxing, where the casuals and the hardcore meet. We're gonna do a couple subjects here. How's your day going, Hector? And what do you got going on with these events this weekend with
Man, I'm doing
Ramirez versus
good.
Viktor Postol?
I'm doing good, Raph. You know what I mean? Just over here in the sunny state of Florida, although it's not very sunny right now, but I'm doing good, man. I'm ready to tackle these topics here today. So let's go ahead and start with what you mentioned last night at the Bubble in Las Vegas, Nevada, in your hometown, or I guess where you're currently staying at.
Yep.
Jose Ramirez defended his WBC and WBO junior welterweight titles against the veteran Viktor Postol from the Ukraine, who's currently trained with Freddie Roach. Now, this was a really close fight. Both guys had their moments. Ramirez ended up coming away with the victory. He won a majority decision. I think it was one judge had it a draw at 114, 114. One judge had it 115, 113 for Ramirez, and another one 116, 112 for Ramirez. I mean, I thought it was a solid victory for Ramirez. Postol's only lost to Josh Taylor. Then probably more known, he lost to Terrence Crawford on pay-per-view, I think, in July of 2015, a few years ago, which, my group, Front Proof Media, actually covered in person down there in Florida, in Vegas for that fight.
Shout out.
You know what? I think both guys underperformed, to be honest with you. I think Ramirez, both guys were out of the ring for a while. The fight had been canceled and postponed 3 times already. They were originally supposed to fight, I think in March in China. Then the coronavirus happened and it was rescheduled for May, rescheduled for July. Then it was finally happened in August, man. So it's kind of like Ramirez, I feel like he could have definitely put more to, for a lack of words here, for more pedal to the metal, man. Because
Do you think they came off a little stiff?
I think they came off rusty to me, especially
Yeah.
Ramirez. There were a lot of opportunity. It seemed to me that whenever he pressed the action, like really pressed the action on Postol, he was able to land. He landed. He should have went to the body a lot more. But at the same time, one of the biggest factors in a person throwing punches or not is if they're in the right range to do so. And Postol was constantly moving. There were a lot of times where obviously the Postol's best punch was a jab. There was a moment, I forget which round, later in the fight where he landed a right hand perfectly clean, but it looked like Ramirez maybe caught on to that. And Postol didn't really land it again to the same effect, but it just leads me to think both guys might have been a bit rusty, maybe especially Ramirez, who's used to fighting in front of a raucous crowd. He's one of the few guys who they say he's a hometown sellout there, where in Fresno at the Save Mart Center over there, he could sell out that stadium anytime or that arena anytime. So I think not having, actual fans there might have slowed him down. But I did think that at the end of the day, I thought he did enough. I thought he won at least 7 rounds. So I didn't think it was a bad decision. But at the end of the day, I would have been happy with a draw as well, or maybe the other way around, 115, 113 for Postol.
Do you think it deserves a rematch at all?
I guess for how close it was, it does, but I don't think the fight itself was very good. I think, as I stated, both guys underperformed. It had its moments of, action, but I don't think it was enough, really to warrant a rematch where a lot of fans would actually want to see one. And I think it's something where Postol would have to regain being the mandatory, for the WBC and WBO belts or something like that. I think we need to move on to Ramirez fighting Josh Taylor for undisputed 100-pound title. That will be a very interesting fight. Taylor is a guy who can box moving, on his back foot, but he's a high volume puncher too. He throws a lot of punches. So that would be an interesting fight. I'd even want to see if that can happen immediately, like this year. If Ramirez is able to, get back in the ring, I'd like to see him take on Regis Prograis. I think, Prograis would be a dangerous fight for him too. It would be, I think, a really exciting fight. I'd like to see him do that. because I know Ramirez wants to be undisputed. There's only been 4 guys who've done it: Hopkins, Jermaine Taylor, Alexander Usyk, and then of course Terrence Crawford. So, it'll be interesting to see if that fight actually happens. I know that Taylor is gonna fight around the end of September. I forget the name of his opponent, but it's gonna be on ESPN. So he's fighting. I think it's September 26th. He's gonna defend his title. So, I mean, we'll see. Hopefully they can make that fight happen. If Taylor's gonna be fighting on ESPN, then I'm assuming he has likely a good relationship
It's
with Top
doable.
Rank. So I think it's definitely doable, and I hope we get that fight, because not only is it for the undisputed title, but I think whoever wins will definitely be in the top 10 pound for pound for sure.
So is Regis with ESPN as well, or?
I don't think he is. I'm not sure who he's promoted by. I feel like he's with Lou DiBella, but I know he signed like a 1-fight contract with the PBC, and I think he's gonna fight on the undercard of, I think, Gervonta Davis against Leo Santa Cruz in October.
Okay,
anybody out there, correct me if I'm wrong, if it's actually the Charlo pay-per-view that's at the end of this month. But I believe he did sign a 1-fight deal with the Premier Boxing Champions to fight somebody on their undercard. So we'll see. At the end of the day, these guys just want to get back in the ring and stay busy.
Well, at the very least, I think that Viktor Postol versus Ramirez it's gonna age well. It doesn't need to be overdone. I don't think it needs a rematch either. I didn't see all of the fight. I'm watching the highlights now just to make sure that I don't say something that didn't happen, because obviously I didn't watch all of it. But at the end of the day, I could see that it's a close fight, and also it looks like it was a decent enough fight for what it was, being in the era that we're in right now. Another thing is Viktor has to prove himself again. Some people are not going to always favor to his style, because when he first, started to make his noise, people were favoring his style. They were actually looking for his style and understanding what he does. But, now that he's taken some L's and whatnot, things look a little different sometimes. And if he doesn't do a knockout, then obviously, it looks like he's being too technical, or, if it's not a big time, like, back and forth, it looks like he's waiting too much. So for me, what I've been seeing is that Ramirez looks stiff, but then Viktor looks even more stiff. Like,
yeah, you can say
you know what I'm saying? Like, so
yeah, he's definitely Postol is definitely a guy who doesn't speak a lot of languages in the ring. He doesn't fight on the inside at all. He is mainly in the mid range, using his jab. But his jab is constant, though. Is a good thing. It's always sharp. It's never lazy. So, it's always a punch that'll get you in trouble. Shout out to both teams, Robert Garcia and Freddie Roach.
These guys are professionals, man. Like, they get in the ring and they make it happen. They perform. They did what they did, but I don't think it needs a rematch, bro.
No, not at all. Not at all. But, when we were talking about undisputed, let's talk about undisputed champions. Let's look at Terrence Crawford, who over the last week it's been rumored, or not even rumored, Bob Arum has come out and stated that he is looking for a fight with former welterweight champion Kell Brook sometime in November. I think that at this point, I think that would be a good fight for Crawford. I'm not sure how good of a fight that would be for Brook, who hasn't fought at welterweight since he lost to Errol Spence. So, it'd be interesting but even before the Spence fight and the fight with Golovkin he was always complaining about making weight to make 147 Brooks. So,
I used to hear those rumors too.
It's going to be interesting to see how that will affect him, against somebody like Terrence Crawford. But, I mean, what do you think? Do you think that's a fight that Crawford should definitely pursue?
I think he should, but I think they should be a little bit looser on the weight. I think they should just make this like a
catch weight.
Yeah, catch weight, or maybe, you have to have the titles on the line, right? You can't just bypass
they could do like maybe a 150 catch weight. I don't know. I think the title could still be on the line, but that might be up to if the WBO approves it, which they might. But who knows? Maybe Brook won't even ask for one. Maybe he feels like he can make weight. So
I mean, I could see Crawford trying to be like, that dude, because everybody always puts in the comments, that video of Crawford calling out somebody and being like, "Yo, let's go to the back." You know what I'm saying? Let's go handle this right now, because
right.
he got that Omaha thug in him, and he's no joke. So like, I could see him wanting to do the whole 150 150 deal just to make it happen. And Kel's, he's got skill. The one thing that could work against Crawford though is that if the fight goes too long, it doesn't look good to Errol Spence fans. They're like, see, you got
Right.
you got some weakness in your game. We're seeing that you're letting this guy bounce around a little too much. Yeah, and the one thing I will say though is that I'm not entirely comfortable with Kell Brook getting out there with his eye injury, because that's super dangerous. And once you get in the ring, there's no going back. There's no like, oh well, can we redo this? Nah, like if he gets hurt, it's a wrap. But what else is Kell Brook gonna do? Some people don't have that cachet to go and be like an analyst or do something that revolves around sports. Kell Brook, he could probably be a trainer, but the thing is, he probably wants to make the boxer money. So I get it, but I don't know. I'm still not 100% on it, and I would have to see some like build up to the fight.
Yeah, I mean, I think they probably would handle that pretty well. I think any kind of build up. I wonder if they would have the fight in the U.S. Because I don't know if fans, they could have more fans in the UK than they will be able to in the US. But I don't know if Bud would really be willing to do that again. I know he did that before.
Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm.
At 135, I think it was against Ricky Burns. So I don't know, man. I think it would be a solid win for Brook, but it would come with people asterisks, especially if he didn't knock him out, if he didn't stop Brook, if he had a trouble with Brook. Although Spence did too. I mean, that was a close fight up until there was a turning point. And plus, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, we can, people pick apart victories anyway. You could do the same thing for Spence's victory over Brook. I mean, the fight before, Brook was coming up from middleweight and getting stopped and having his surgery. Yeah. So and you can say the same thing about Spence's victory over Brook. You know what I'm saying? So
Spence was tenacious in that fight. He fought really well in the inside. So I give credit to Spence, but Kell's
and he did it in his hometown.
Yeah. So like I don't know. I love Kell's skills though, man. Like he really is a one of a kind fighter. Even though he can't get over the hump of some of the things that's happened to him in his career and stuff like that. I feel like he should have fought Amir Khan, but it is what it is. Like
Amir Khan is like the solar eclipse. Some fool just comes out every once in a while. You know what I mean? Somehow he gets a big fight.
That fight should have been happened. That fight should have been happened. So, like, I don't see another way for Kell Brook to promote himself other than how he's doing it, unless he surprises us. But I would like to see it. But like I said, I'm a little uncomfortable with that injury.
Right. Right. I feel you on that. But, I think Crawford, unfortunately, is in search of an opponent that gets him that cachet because – honestly, man, the other dudes at welterweight don't have that problem. Like Spence could fight Garcia, he could rematch Porter, he could. I don't know if Pacquiao. I saw Aram say that Pacquiao's not gonna fight in 2020 because I guess the money wasn't there for them to fight outside the United States, and then. Manny's busy doing his thing as a senator, so I guess he can only really fight like in January and July at this point.
Paperwork stacked up to here,
right?
Pacquiao with all this stuff going on now.
I mean, honestly, he should probably retire. To be honest with you, but
he wouldn't. It wouldn't hurt him. It would not hurt him. It would actually benefit him.
I'm saying, man. I mean, how many fights? He has over 70 fights. So it's time, man. It's time. He's 41 now, so. And by the time he steps in the ring again, he'll be 42. So.
Yeah, and Spence already signed to fight Garcia. He's probably gonna go down a different path, and that's who I would, if I was Pacquiao, that's who I would want to fight. unless
Spence.
yeah, I mean, unless you're retiring, like it's either you
That would
retire or you
be,
take the best. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying?
I
Like,
mean, that would be interesting, bro. Yeah, that would be interesting, bro. If Manny fought Spence, that would be crazy. I'm sure it would probably do well on pay-per-view,
hmm
if they make that possible. But man, because it would be a perfect fight to do at the whatchamacallit, the AT&T Center, or not AT&T Center, the
oh, the
where the
Texas,
Cowboys play. Yeah,
yeah,
Texas State Cowboys Stadium. Because Manny fought there twice. Spence fought there against Garcia. They were both well received with the fans there. Had a good
hmm
attendance for both, and I think that fight they would probably get even bigger because you look at Manny's opponents. There was Joshua Clottey and Margarito.
I
For
remember.
somehow Clottey had a bigger audience in the Margarito fight. Go figure there. And then I think the
I think
Spence
that was
Garcia
the
one was bigger.
opening. That was the soft opening for that
Yeah,
stadium. Yeah,
yeah.
so
I think that
that
might
was
have been
part of
it.
that
But
crowd.
you know what I mean? It was
Oh,
it was cool
free
though.
free chips, free
Yeah,
soda.
I wonder how many of those tickets were comped. You know what I mean? Meaning like they were just given away instead of
They
sold
probably were.
tickets. But you never know with that. But moving into the next topic here, and I think we were going to talk a little bit about Tyson Fury here
Mm.
next. So Tyson Fury, apparently there's been some kind of stall within negotiations for a third fight with Wilder, which probably was going to take place in December of this year. And Fury has come out and said, why not just, if it can't fight Wilder next, why not fight Joshua in December instead, and or Anthony Joshua for those that ain't privy. And I think that would be a great fight, man. I mean, why not do it right or immediately? There's some I think unfinished business there for a lot of fans. You have a whole sect of fans who believe Fury cheated. There's conspiracy videos out there about his gloves. So I guess maybe in a way the Wilder fight could be a way to shut that up if he stops him again. But I think Fury is far and away the best heavyweight right now.
Yeah.
So I would like to see him fight Joshua next. I think that is a tougher fight than the Wilder fight because I think Wilder's more one dimensional, than Joshua. Joshua can at least move and make it a little bit tougher fight for Fury. But I mean, what would you say? Would you say that you'd want to see Fury Joshua this year?
This year, I doubt it. I doubt it happening. I would want to see it. Obviously, it's like
Right.
that would be the best heavyweight fight that we've had since, would you say, Klitschko
Maybe Klitschko Joshua.
and Joshua, or I don't know. It's debatable, but it would probably be one of the best fights in the past 3 years. Um, I don't know. They're both almost the same age.
Yeah.
Like it needs to happen. Like the only thing is that Fury is stuck with that contract, and now things are like kind of stalling because of what's going on. So I would want to see it this year, but I doubt it happening because these guys, they don't cut corners when it comes to bringing in the masses. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah,
Like,
that's what I mean too. Yeah,
yeah,
that's true.
and another thing is these guys, they don't want to give in to the whole agenda that some might say is going on with American boxers, or heavyweight division, like how it has to be an American champion or blah blah blah. These guys, they want to fulfill that dream for everybody for in the UK.
Yeah.
So I would assume that they want to do it big, but the thing is, Tyson Fury wants to get the ball rolling. So I
Right.
respect what Tyson Fury's saying.
Yeah, and I think Fury isn't he's not intimidated by any of these heavyweights, I think that he, was able to fight earlier this year, so he's in an advantage there. And we'll see. I mean, I don't know if Joshua has, still if he's still gonna fight Kubrat Pulev. And I know that even Alexander Usyk is mandatory for his WBO belt, and that would be interesting to see too. We got to see Usyk fight more at heavyweight, but everything's kind of at a standstill because as a fan, you also want to see Fury Joshua in a big stadium. You want to see that at Wembley Stadium, 80,000 plus people. That makes it more of an event that way. And I think it would be kind of a shame for it to be, I don't know, in the backyard.
Yeah, and even more memorable.
Eddie Hearn's
It's more
backyard.
memorable when people are singing along, because you know how they do in the UK. This is a party for them.
Yeah,
This ain't
for
no
sure.
like. This is an event. This is a mood, as they say, right? So
Right.
come on.
Sweet Caroline all day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Over there. So I get
think
that.
Tyson Fury got the right idea. It's just how long will it take?
Yeah, and who knows when we're gonna be able to get back to like having a stadium full of people. Like who knows when that'll actually happen. So we'll have to wait and see there on that. But I definitely would look forward to it. If that fight were to come to fruition, or really anybody with Fury, because Fury's always, at least out of the ring, he's always entertaining. With the things, his interviews and everything. So, I definitely want to see him in the ring again if we could get him back by the end of this year. But if not, this year's kind of been like. It is what it is. It's kind of like one of those years where it's like, all right, well, a lot of these fights may not happen this year, but it's understandable. And luckily we got some fights to look forward to. We got Lomachenko Lopez and Spence Garcia this year, and then maybe we'll have the Terrence Crawford, Kell Brooks. So we got some good fights on the horizon for sure.
Well, also, like Tyson Fury's doing what he's supposed to do. Like, like for example, another person is Canelo. He's doing what he's supposed to do. They're talking, they're in shape, they're putting out the videos, they're trying to do their part. That's what they're supposed to do. The powers that be, they're the ones that have to come up with the money and the strategy and whatnot. So, like, these guys, they got to do what they got to do. And I'm just glad to see that they're still in the ring or training or still thinking about boxing.
Right. Yeah, and it's important for them to do that because they're not gonna. I'm not sure if Canelo's gonna fight this year, man. To be honest with you, I mean it's just weird for him to have to fight maybe in an empty arena too. Somebody who generates so much money, it's going to be strange, and who knows what opponent, will be approved. Because I know last week we talked about that a real Yildirim guy who was not approved by DAZN for him to fight. So we'll see, what ends up happening there. But, I wouldn't mind, Canelo taking on, of course, everybody wants to see him against Callum Smith. I would have loved to have seen him against Billy Joe Saunders, but the big redheaded stepchild that nobody's talking about, Demetrius Andrade, man. Give Andrade a shot in this environment, but I feel like it's like give Andrade a shot with no crowd. Just, Andrade would probably jump at that immediately. You know what I mean? I would if I were him. But we'll see. I think that would be a good fight. I don't think anybody would complain if he took on Andrade next. I think everybody would see that as a good middleweight defense for him. But maybe he wants to start fighting at 168. From now on. So we'll see.
Ultimately, it's one of the cheaper options, in my opinion.
And it's exactly, and that's another good point. If everybody's going to be taking some kind of pay cut, or you're fighting a guy, no disrespect to Andre, but, who's not necessarily a draw, maybe outside of Providence, Rhode Island, where he's from. Yeah. He might be somebody that you might take the fight for $5 million or less than that or something.
Yeah, and he's in-house.
And he's in-house, too.
You don't have to search
it's almost a win-win for DAZN, right. You know what I mean? And then you could, if it turns out to be a better fight there and Andre somehow pulls out the victory, rematch, you know what I'm saying? Yep. Rematch on that. So, it'll definitely be something we keep our eye on for sure.